Dang, it's so cold out here. I need to get inside before I freeze to death. Well, I guess there's no better time to chill on the couch and watch TV.
Ahoy there, mateys! Tired of spending your hard-earned francs on overpriced furniture? Looking for deals that'll charge your meter? Then come on down to Horatio Nelson's Trafalgar House, the Wiltshire County's favorite defendable estate. You'll find bedrooms, living rooms, dinettes, dens, and bathrooms aplenty. First-time homeowners? We've got you. New parents looking for Patty's first crib? We've got you. From the latest and modern designs to the classic styles of yesteryear, it's all here and it's all a steal. Walk in today and get your dream sectional lounger, kitchen table, floor lamp, and bed frame here at Horatio Nelson's Trafalgar House, located a 1.5 miles northeast of Downton. Walk in today, kick your feet back, and enjoy a mansion of your own. For every seaman deserves a throne, and we've got one with your name on it here at Trafalgar. Wait, who's this guy? Turn the camera off and help me!
Wow, I gotta buy some furniture for Trafalgar House. I hope you guys enjoyed that Backins-inspired app. But on a serious note, there is an actual advertisement for Trafalgar House in the Sandpiper Dispatch, as seen here. It seems that since the Blitz invasion of Great Britain in late August to early September, the owner had put Trafalgar House on sale to earn some quick cash before the Horde had fully conquered southern England. Nevertheless, by October 1815, the month in which the map takes place, the mansion had now been converted into a military depot. Yet, who is the manor's owner, and what historical context lies behind the lore of Trafalgar House? Well, my friends, fear not, because once again, we'll be looking at the real-life historical context behind the map. The Trafalgar House we know today was originally called Stanlage Park. The mansion was first mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086, which recorded every piece of property in England during the reign of William the Conqueror. From the 11th to the 18th century, the ancient manor would be owned by various aristocratic families. Subsequently, around the beginning of the Georgian era, Sir Peter Vanderpoel purchased Stanlage Park in 1726. During his ownership, Vanderpoel commissioned the construction of the central house we see today, with it being finished in 1733. After Vanderpoel's death, his son sold the property to Sir William Young, who then sold it to Henry Dawkins in 1765. Dawkins then saw the addition of the north and south wings to the manor, as well as the front portico. Meanwhile, in 1805, Admiral Horatio Nelson led the Royal Navy during the Battle of Trafalgar against the Franco-Spanish fleet. Thanks to his brilliant maneuvers, Nelson utterly destroyed his numerically superior foes, though at the cost of his own life after being shot by a French musketeer. In honor of his heroism, the British Parliament bought and renamed the Stanlage Park to Trafalgar House for the purchase of a estate for Lord Nelson Act of 1815 for Nelson's closest male relative, his elder brother William. Dawkins had already died in 1814, and he stated in his will for the manor to be sold. So, just before the events of Trafalgar House, the mansion's owner would have been William Nelson, since the act was approved in June 1815 before the Blight had reached Great Britain. However, looking at the newspaper ad and the events of London and Westminster, William Nelson may have sold the estate before the zombie horde advanced northward. Alternatively, the British military may have repossessed the mansion under the Homeland Defense Act of 1814. In whichever case, by the time of Trafalgar House's defense, the British Army had transformed the estate into a true fortress against the undead. Well, after learning about the map's context, let's now get on to the lore of... Once the players spawn in, they're tasked with defending 4 sectors of the mansion. The main first floor, the south wing, the north wing, and the kitchen. After each wave, the sector where the players must defend will be randomized, but the first sector will always be the main first floor. Besides protecting the sectors, the players must also hold out for 6 waves, with each wave likely lasting an hour until dawn. Hence, it is probable that the map starts at 12 AM and ends at 6 AM, which does remind me of something.
Five Nights at Freddy's, that's where I wanna be. Five Nights at...
If the players successfully hold out for all 6 waves, a horde of runners will rapidly advance toward the entrance of Trafalgar House before being dispatched by a detachment of British soldiers. Shortly after, the detachment of 23rd Regiment troops and their captain will march to the front of the house. The captain will then speak to the beleaguered soldiers.
Good morning.
From where have you come? Bristol. We're here to relieve most of the troops in the area. You've done your country well, and the supplies should allow us to carry on the fight. You are relieved of your post.
Bristol, by the way, is around 93 kilometers or 58 miles from our fellow Americans from Trafalgar House, so it is quite an astonishing feat that a detachment from another county was able to save the players in the nick of time. Otherwise, the map concludes with the players being saved by the captain's reinforcements. Going back to the events of the map, you may also hear various snippets of dialogue exchanged between the British soldiers at random intervals. You can listen to all the dialogue lines for the Trafalgar House holdout map by entering the /Triggerscene commands from the corresponding GMB wiki page, which you can find in the description below. Anyhow, here are the most important lines lore-wise.
The king's dead. You must all know this. What? You're lying out your hat. You really believe he made it out of Windsor? Rumour says he offered himself up to the dead. His arms spread open for that undead embrace. I should shoot you. Speak again, and I shall have you flogged. Speak ill of the king again, and I shall have you shot. How many of them are there? They must have taken Salisbury. We're being surrounded. We're going to die. How many more of us are going to die defending this place? We are under strict orders. If this building is to fall, we shall lose our depot. If the depot is lost, the mobile line loses its powder. We're defending farm ground. Fields! The farmers are all dead anyways! They Londoners are separate now. If we cannot dispatch or lead them now, they will converge upon Portsmouth. If Portsmouth is lost, the Navy is lost. If the Navy is lost, England is dead. You'll shoot me if I become one of them, right? You even think we'll get the chance? We'll all be damned first light. What makes you think that you have the privilege? Rotting in your own carcass. You're inhabited by your own soul. Oh, don't bring up that papist nonsense. They ought to be dead. I hope. We're here to fill in the ranks. Who ordered you to come here? Am I to know? We were garrisoned at Portsmouth. I was handed a paper to directly make Salisbury hours ago. These confounded men and their blasted papers. We ought to bolt. The mages run mad. Have you lost your senses? I haven't the wish to be baptized into hell. Even if the old man's a bedlamite and can't stand ground out there. The sword's mud. A flint will soak. Get this through your head. Nobody's coming to save us. You think the king and his merry men are on their way? We haven't a choice. They'll certainly slaughter us out there. That may be. But if we make for the brush, they won't make us out. Go on your own, won't you? But woe to you if I have to put the ball in your skull.
First and foremost, it is heavily implied that King George III died in Windsor Castle after the fall of London, as the undead breached the royal residence's defenses. The line about how the king offered himself up to the zombies likely refers to his mental illness in real-life history. In our timeline, King George III suffered a severe relapse into his mental disorder in late 1810, after which he became permanently insane. His eldest son thus became Prince Regent, and King George III would languish in Windsor Castle until his death in 1820. So, in the timeline of Guts and Blackpowder, the same events have played out, except that the zombie invasion has quickened the king's death. Second, the conversations about Salisbury being taken and the depot's defense reveal the bleak state of the UK. The retreat line that Wellington mentioned in Westminster is likely being pushed further and further back, and most of the farmers in the countryside have already been consumed by the blight. Inevitably, the British population will suffer a famine since farming will become impossible. It also seems like the Royal Navy has taken back Portsmouth from the undead, with the port becoming a strategic location for the Navy's operations. The Navy might ultimately be the country's key to defeating the blight and reclaiming Great Britain. Third, the British may have realized that zombies are actually the souls of sinners trapped inside their own corpses. However, this explanation may have been provided by the Catholic Church, as one of the British soldiers mocks it as papist nonsense. Regardless, Britain and possibly other European nations may have begun to grasp the blight's nature better to combat its supernatural effects. Lastly, the last two exchanges illustrate the growing disaffection among the British soldiers with their superiors, as their commanding officers fail to competently lead their men against the horde. The comments, "the men are organized no differently than the men in the pub," and "the majors run mad," reflect Wellington's assessment of the commanders' cowardice, with many of them likely panicking to save their own hides and sacrificing the men as cannon fodder. When push comes to shove, every man is for himself. Besides the dialogue, you may also notice a few notes scattered around the rooms on the second floor of the main house. In the bathroom, you can find a paper detailing the English defense plan. Good news. We have determined that the monstrous dog that is the Blight is injured. They have trampled London, Scotland, even the shores of England. However, the army has dispatched a heavy blow against the wicked brute using pure English ingenuity. It is sad to note that the death toll in London, but a great deal of the army has escaped it, and in their escape, handed heavy losses to the foe. Now, in this time of hardship, we shall exhibit His Majesty's plan for the saving of England. Various structures have been fortified to provide refuge for our army and Englishmen. These iron forts provide staging grounds to defeat the Blight in key areas. These forts are to be quickly vacatable, and of the newly reformed wagon train shall be provided. Lines are to be established and held at these locations. They shall be within vicinity of supply stashes and given reasonable boundary. Many cities struggle by Portsmouth. The Royal Navy has dispatched the dead from her streets. The naval yard secured shall bring great benefit to England now. God save the King. Portsmouth Print House, 1815. The text reinforces some of what we already know from the events of London and previous dialogue. As the capital was lost to the Blight, most of the British army was able to retreat while dealing heavy blows against the undead. Now, British High Command has adopted a strategy of defense in depth, seeking to delay the infected's advance rather than trying to halt it. Accordingly, the British Army has established multiple strongpoints, such as Trafalgar House, that can be easily resupplied and vacated if the position is on the brink of being overrun. Overall, the strategy seems quite effective, as it has allowed the British government to restructure the Royal Wagon Train and bought time for the Navy to retake Portsmouth. If you enter the room behind you and walk past the nursery, you can find a letter written by Prince Regent George IV on a desk. The letter reads, October 1st, 1815. By order of the acting king, the Prince of Wales, you are to occupy the manor at Trafalgar Park, formerly Stanley Park. Provisions and supplies are to be deposited and built up into the building. It shall serve as a depot for the skirmishes within southern England. Their arrival shall be through the means of Plymouth, wagon train, and north. You are to send men of your deemed fit to escort these convoys. They shall provide you with a date and time. The house and estate is to be held by all costs. Should the compound be lost, it must be taken back. The rest of the sentence is cut off in game, but the last few words can be seen in a digital version on the wiki page. Based on the note, George IV has likely fully taken over his father's royal duties. His order also suggests that the public may be kept in the dark about the king's death, which makes sense as the government wants to maintain the country's morale. However, this is assuming that the king really died. Additionally, the mention of Plymouth implies that the Royal Navy has also retaken that city from the Blight. Otherwise, the last sentence of the letter may indicate that Trafalgar House possesses a more symbolic than strategic value for the British, since the manor is named in memory of Horatio Nelson. This might explain why a regiment all the way from Bristol came to relieve the soldiers stationed at Trafalgar House to ensure that the estate was secure. Entering another room, you can find a really long rant written supposedly by one of the mansion's former occupants. The note reads, You have been deluded into the humbuggery. The armies of Europe stood against it, and such they fell in a matter of months. Every night soldiers rested, every day they dwelled nearer to them. The stragglers who fell behind were not taken prisoner, they were slaughtered, and where the shallow graves stood arose more. It does not spread like plagues of past. If it had, she would have been merciful, quick. Instead, Europe gazes upon a festering wound, watching as the blood poison rises up her limbs, desperate to amputate each one until she rots into a pulverized corpse. You can hold lines as former nations did, believing their heroism will thwart them. Delusional, many stand in line, but if one segment of a million is to fall, the dead and your former men will eat it from the inside out, piercing your flank. The success had in the mainland was not in battlefields, but walled cities, fortresses. Siege can be held against them, but how long? How long shall your victory be realized, Pyrrhic? They scourge the land, now forever accursed, to raise any dead soul. Your farmers cannot cultivate land with mouths around their necks. The famines from which I have heard deep within scorched territories is what brings end to them. When London fell, all hope for England was lost. We should have burned every ship that stepped into the channel, cut off trade, seized it all, burned the French countryside. Yet we hoped the Petit Chapeau would batter them back, save the status quo. We even held belief we would disperse a horde of millions in Brussels. What a farce! 'Twas as impossible. We blamed the Frenchmen for their cowardice, but I saw no cowardice, only desperate survival. What general believes his men, entrusted by the king to him, to stand fight against thousands of them surrounding you as you are swarmed from behind, trudging in mud that makes you no faster than them? The traitors were the generals. I'm bewildered even Bonaparte would conjure such an idea. We have lost Europe and now England. If anyone will stop the senseless death, we would evacuate the Isle, leave for North America, Bermuda, Ireland. We were dealt our cause and we lost. The Royal Navy has proven itself relatively unscathed. If any of us are to survive, what remains of this government should get people off this forbidden isle. This long complaint regarding the war against the Blight showcases just how hopeless the situation is in Europe. As the author points out, the Blight is not like past plagues. The horde continues to grow as fallen soldiers join their ranks. Hiding within the comfort of fortifications is only a temporary solution. However, the note interestingly points out that the zombies may be dying out due to a lack of flesh to consume. So, if the European nations can successfully burn and quarantine all infected areas, they could simply starve the undead and defeat the Blight that way. Moreover, the author confirms our suspicion that the Blight reached Britain via a contaminated merchant ship. Anyhow, petit chapeau, meaning little hat in French, refers to Napoleon Bonaparte's hat and by extension himself. The sentence I'm bewildered even Bonaparte will conjure such an idea also suggests that he primarily led the defense of the Low Countries. Yet, Napoleon must have soon realized how pointless their efforts were and retreated with his French forces westward to escape the undead. Ultimately, the author's advice to evacuate Great Britain and leave for the Americas and Ireland may be the wisest course of action, leaving the undead to rot and decay. Trafalgar House may not have many notes containing lore, but combined with its dialogue, it certainly delivers with its updates on Britain's situation following London's fall. The British Army has now adopted defense in depth, and it is yet to be seen if the Royal Navy can save England in its darkest hour. However, the map's insinuations of the British leadership in turmoil do not paint a promising picture. In future updates, Great Britain may ultimately be evacuated, with ships carrying refugees to North America. One of these ships might also carry the Blight with them, which might mean, in the near future, Guts and Blackpowder will finally have a map set in America. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the second episode on GMB lore. I really appreciate all the tremendous support you guys have shown in the last video. I can't even believe we already reached 3,000 subscribers. Honestly, thank you guys so much. Well, please hit the subscribe button, comment below, and like the video if you want to see more. Toodaloo.